Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Board of Selectmen's meeting of February 3rd, 2015. We opened the meeting earlier tonight at 6:30 for executives and went into executive session, then came out, and we'll continue. We had already done our roll call. Before we continue, I'd like to make a few comments over the last week or so. We had a lot of citizens step up and take care of residents in the area that were not available, didn't have the ability to shovel out in other areas and stuff, and I want to thank everybody. A community that's engaged, that's what we do, and I'm very proud of what happened. I also want to commend the police department and fire department for the long hours and the difficult situations with the storm. We had actually met on Monday, just before the storm. We had a meeting with all the basic stakeholders in the town that have to respond to these issues, etc. And the meeting was at 10 o'clock in the morning. We had the National Weather Service on a conference call. We had FEMA and MEMA, which are just the federal and the state organizations. They had explained to us that we were expected to have an average of 25 inches of snow. As much as 3 to 4 inches an hour, which would be whiteout blizzard conditions. They also told us to expect coastal flooding. They told us to expect gusts of winds to 60 to 80 miles an hour and to have probably fairly large amounts of power outages and trees down. I think we need to thank our utility companies because over the last 2 years after the 2013 storm, they've been working constantly to cut back trees, brush, etc. And we basically went through that storm with virtually no power outages, which is kind of amazing considering what went on around us. And I'd like to thank them for what they did. We had, basically the volume of the storm exceeded the capacity of the town as far as equipment, manpower, et cetera. The municipal maintenance department in particular has been cut back to, I think we're up to maybe 9 total people, 12 including people in the office. To take care of a storm like that, these people worked 35 to 50 hours straight with no breaks. They did the best they could. A lot of equipment had to be pulled off the road because it couldn't handle the volume of the snow itself. We had to go to very heavy-duty equipment. I like to reach out also to AD Makepeace. They sent us 2 major earth-moving pieces of equipment immediately, and then I called them that night and said, it's way beyond us, we need more help. They proceeded the next morning to supply us with 5 what they call cranberry haulers so we could move the snow, pack it up and get it out of there, and they just went out of their way, and I'd really like to thank Jim Kane and AD Makepeace because they don't say anything, they just go ahead and do things. I just really, again, municipal maintenance went not just the mile, they went as far as they possibly could. And even though we got complaints because we couldn't handle it, they deserve a lot of credit. When you see them out in the street, it would be really nice to go up and just shake their hand and thank them because they basically gave it everything they had. And that's about all I have to say on that. Mr. Sullivan?
It's interesting. You start hearing certain things and you start getting compared to other communities, and they say, well, this community's perfect. They're doing great. And you look and say, well, their school's closed on Friday as well. I tell you, this affected the whole region. Now, there's been some information that was put out there that apparently we had no salt available, hadn't had any salt. So let me just run something by everybody. On August 22nd, 2014, the Municipal Maintenance Department ordered 500 tons of salt. That's back in August. The contract is due to expire on August 31st, 2014, and that increase would be significant. In other words, we were pre-purchasing the salt because it would be cheaper than what the new increase would be. Prior to this delivery of salt, the town barn salt shed contained 400 tons of mix, which is the sand and salt mix, and approximately 200 tons of salt. We placed an order for additional 600 tons on January 26th. Our first significant storm took place on January 24th, but prior to this storm, the town had only caused to send out sand on 3 separate occasions, which were a total of 4 hours. Let's say roughly 100 tons per 4-hour storm in the 2-to-1 ratio, 2 being sand, 1 being salt. Therefore, there was 400 tons of salt and 300 tons of mix was in the salt shed prior to Winter Storm Juno. At no time did municipal maintenance run low on materials. And the salt shed is built to hold 500 tons, but we had close to 800 to 1,000 tons in it. So I'd just like to say, it's truly sad when we have the people out there working hard. They're working the hours, spending them away. 'Cause don't forget, they still have to come home to their own families after tens of hours out there on the road. You know, and it's truly a shame. So please, you know, think about them. Think about the ones working out there that are in the dangerous conditions driving, that are in the blizzard conditions. And that's the police, that's the EMS, the fire, but especially our municipal maintenance out there. And I'll tell you, they did a darn good job. And we had over 60 contractors out there, contracted plows, that were unable to move that snow. And again, I saw it from another community that said they had the same issues. And you want to know what I saw under their announcement? Was thank yous to the DPW. So please take the time and thank them.
Mr. Titlebaum?
Yes, further in that regard, on Thursday, I went out to municipal maintenance. I knew that it was a difficult battle to get the roads cleared. I wanted to hear right there at the command center, if you will, how things were going. I sat in there for 5.5 hours. There, of course, were still many problems, as there were in Sandwich, as there were in Barnstable, as there were in Falmouth, as there were in Dennis, as there were in Yarmouth. Many of the people would call up several times, and were polite. They would say, oh, I saw the truck, but it went by, it missed my little street with 2 houses on it. Now understand something, especially the private contractors, and even the people we bring in from Makepeace, they don't know the streets as well as the municipal maintenance people do. Very easy to go down a street, glance over and say, oh, that must be a driveway, not see a street sign, maybe there isn't a street sign. These things happen. Hence, we have people in the municipal maintenance office to answer phones, to dispatch vehicles to areas that haven't been plowed yet. What frankly pissed me off was the people who would call up, scream at the workers in the municipal maintenance, to the point where I was motioning for them to hang up. You know, let's try to be a little classy during these things. This storm was a top 10 storm as far as back as 100 years. I don't think anybody would dispute that. If you think of all the big storms, it's going to take a minimum of 2 days, possibly 3 to dig out. I don't care how much equipment you have. I don't care how much manpower you throw at it. There's just only so much snow you can move at a time. So that, you know, on the one hand, I was very grateful when people would call up and were patient. There were some people who hadn't seen a truck for 2 days. And they were just inquisitive. They just wanted to know when it would happen. They weren't berating the people in there. They weren't rude. They weren't obnoxious. There were, however, a few who didn't fit that description. And that's what these words that I'm delivering to you now, you're the folks I want to take heed. I also heard from a municipal maintenance worker who, when he was taking a break to get a cup of coffee, had somebody accost him in Cumberland Farms, look him up and say, you people suck. I don't know who this is, but no, pal, you suck. Utterly unacceptable to accost a worker who's in there on 30 hours of work, no sleep, and speak that way to him. People in this town need to grow the hell up.
Done? Okay, announcements. Mr. Titlebaum. I don't think you have any in there.
I don't have an...
That wasn't under announcements.
No.
No, that was under rants.
No?
You know, I have to apologize for some of the language I used, but my tone was meant and it was deliberate. As far as announcements go, the Beach and Tourism Advisory Committee is going to be holding soon, I'll have an actual date announced and a time, but an opportunity for the local businesses that are interested in tourism to come to the brand spanking new convention hall out at Rosebrook, the Marriott out there, and meet and talk about how we can get this town on the tourism map even more than it is today.
Great. Mrs. Whiteside.
I want to echo the thanks to the particularly municipal maintenance department who worked the extra hours, but all of our first responders did an excellent job. One of the things that we discovered in this storm was that many people who use medical appliances had not yet registered with the police department, and that list grew, and that's great. I'm hoping that our revitalized Council on Aging will help put together a community check on your neighbor kind of program, because you know, if you are alone in your home and the power does go out, or even if it doesn't go out and you're housebound, it's pretty scary. So thanks to all of the people who really did the right thing. And I'll just remind all of you that there's still ice on the road. I saw 3 spin-outs, turnouts. I'm tired of pushing you out of snowbanks. Slow down.
Mr. Holmes?
I think I might borrow some of Patrick's time. I have some announcements for him. Is that okay, Mr.
That's all
Chair?
good.
Look, I want to tell you a story. There was a young boy, 18, used to work at St. Luke's Hospital, and during the blizzard of 78, called in sick. Thought that was a kind of neat thing to do. And the nursing supervisor said, "Oh, no, young man." Now, mind you, they were all in their early 70s at the time. Remember the old nurses? And she said, "Oh, no, young man, you just walk up to a main street, and the National Guard will put you in the 5-ton. So the young man walked up the street in his whites. We were very proper back then, and jumped on the back of the 5-ton. The 5-ton ends up down on Pleasant Street in New Bedford at a National Guard armory. It didn't look anything like St. Luke's Hospital to me, you know. And I said, "Hey, what are you guys doing here?" And they said, "We recognize you. You're one of our medics. We've been activated." And for those who remember, and I'm looking around, there are people here who were here in the blizzard of 78. I'm not sure if Mr. Sullivan was born yet, but
January 6th, right before it.
it's right before it. Okay, so you were probably still in the hospital.
Typist.
Yeah, in nursing as well, probably.
Yeah,
you
most
know.
likely.
And it took me, and my parents at the time, my mom still lives there at Brooklyn Park. It took me 72 hours to get to my mom's house and change those whites. 72 hours. And I was with the National Guard. And what we did during that storm was we worked with the ambulance service. And we had the old Jeep litter ambulances in 78, no cracker boxes. And we would drive to the scene with the city people, and then they would get on the Jeep, and we would drive them in because they couldn't go anywhere, and put the patients on the litter, and then bring them back to the city ambulance where they had a path, and then we'd follow them to the hospital. Yeah, I did that for 72 hours in my whites. Well, that sucked. You talk about suck, right? That sucked. But here's the point. Well, what I saw over the last week was an incredible amount of effort by Mr. Sullivan and the chief of police. I see our EMS director was here. I don't know if he's still here.
Yes, yeah, Dave Evans.
I actually saw him driving a truck. That scared me. He had one of those trucks with the things go up in the back like that to dump the snow. I didn't know he was licensed for that.
Harbor Master.
We probably should check that out, you know. But, you know, the harbor master's out plowing roads. I don't want to forget anybody, the police and fire, EMS, harbor master. Well, my point is, and then Mr. Dave over at Municipal Maintenance, who has about 7 guys, I think, now.
Yeah.
And an incredible amount of work went on. And, you know, one of my colleagues just mentioned problems. You know, things might have not gone as quickly as some of our customers expected. But I would like you to consider this. Reset the clock. Because that storm did not end on Monday. It started on Monday. It did not end on Tuesday. And quite frankly, it didn't end until sometime during the night into Wednesday morning, as I recall. Have I got a brain lesion?
Nope, it's about 10 in the morning.
So when people are calling me on Wednesday afternoon that the town is not down to tar, a storm just ended, one of the top storms in the state. I don't know how it records in Wareham. 6 hours later, that every street in town, 180 miles of roads, are not all down the pavement, I'm sorry. Nobody's that good. But what I saw was an effort by our town administrator, and I'll back him 100%, and Mr. Dave and the other folks. Are there some things? And my issue is with people I've been communicating with is communication. And maybe we're looking at some website changes so that we can communicate with people. I think that's good things to do. Because if you're sitting there and you have no idea when somebody's coming, you start to get frustrated. And at least with some of those notices, it might relieve some of the frustration. But as far as the manual labor goes, it was pretty deep snow. And the other thing I'll say to you is this. I think I got back on Sunday from Atlanta. My first stop was the store. And I packed up for a blizzard because they said we were going to have a blizzard here. I think I recall that on the news over the weekend. So I packed up, and I still have some of my storm food there if anybody wants to come by. But you plan for it. If you got to work in Boston, and you're in Wareham in a blizzard, you're not going there Wednesday afternoon, my friends. Or even Thursday, you're not going. If you're really that urgent for your boss, go stay in Boston, because you're not going to get there. I went to Boston. It took me 6 hours yesterday to get to the Faulkner and back in the snow. And you're going to pick on Wareham? You know, it's human beings with pieces of equipment. They can only do the best they can, and our people did the best they could. So, you know, I enjoyed the suggestions I've gotten. I actually got on some, what do you call it, social media. And I think that I learned a lesson in listening and trying to provide information back to the citizens about what I knew from Mr. Sullivan's notes, try to pass that stuff along. And I think we would try to do, I certainly would try to do a better job there. And maybe if you know the relief is on the way, you won't be as frustrated. So thank you very much. And the politicians will not get in the way because we are a town chartered. I mean, we may have our say, but it's your business and Mr. Menard's business to deal with that. So, you know, we are a charter town, and I'm sure there'll be 3 of us here that will protect you from politicians who want to make a stage out of it, because it's really not a stage. And I do want to push. If I heard from people, my mother's on oxygen. You know, I have this defibrillator in my house. Please, please, please contact Lieutenant Walchek. I think we started with 23,
Get over
right,
100.
Judy?
Over 100.
Yes.
We started
Yes.
with like 23 or something. And I did see him Saturday, and he said that he got quite a few emails. So every time we speak, if we can promote that to our family, our friends, our neighbors, so that we can get the wellness checks done. He's got a team of people. They do an outstanding job with that. So if you know anybody with any electrical equipment, please get a hold of the Wareham Police so we can get them on the list. Thanks.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chair, so there's actually two businesses in town, and one of them was the Riverside Cafe.
Well, I'm sorry, I forgot about that.
Yeah, if you and Mama Mary's.
Yeah, we had actually the 2 businesses in general. Riverside Cafe didn't go home. They stayed, and they basically worked and provided food for the workers and stuff, police, fire, et cetera, delivered stuff, got stove over to them. And Mama Mary's, which is a new little Italian restaurant on Main Street, was delivering food out. And we got food to municipal maintenance as well with them. And that's another one of our businesses that went out of the way to do things. I did forget about that. I also, in my comments, I forgot to mention again the harbor master with his mooring tool to remove moorings, was plowing with that, which I thought he was going to kill himself falling over with it. And Mr. Evans with the ambulance service, they, again, another spectacular job, and they were there in case there was a medical emergency. Schools, yeah, the schools basically did everything they could, you know. We actually, on Friday, I think Mr. Mike McMillan was in, I think, on Thursday asking about the schools, and we were looking at the safety issues, and we recommended they not open on Friday as well. Well, they were moving snow everywhere, also in the town property. Everybody was out straight. It was just very difficult. But let me give you some of the announcements. Sometime about a week or so ago, somebody left a cane at the treasurer collector's office. We'll need a description in order to give it to someone, because it's an awful nice cane. I can't believe someone left it behind and hasn't come after it. Mr. White has his usual Thursday morning, 9 o'clock meeting at the Agawam Village Community Center. This week will be our new chief, Kevin Walsh, and there will be a chat with the chief. We also have from our Buzz's Bay Productions, they Catch the Buzz. There'll be a Lover's Leap Valentine's event, and I think they're doing it with, give me a minute here, an evening with Charlie Ferrand and Sean England. Join us Valentine's Day evening for the evening field with Boston rock legend and South Coast favorite. And the tickets are $10, $15 the door, and the doors open at 7:30. Show starts at 8 o'clock. I don't think I have anything else. Okay.
Just one more thing. In case somebody wasn't paying attention, the New England Patriots won the Super Bowl 49 by a score of 28-24. Hence my wearing this. I think Chairman Slavin maybe celebrated by getting a new bow tie or something. But for those people out there who are saying this is the first time they've seen Teitelbaum up there without a tie, you're wrong.
That was necessary, huh? Okay.
And let's see, the next up is citizens' participation. Is there anyone who'd like to come speak to the board tonight? Good evening.
Sir, go up to the table. Do we have the logbook or we don't?
Yes.
It is there? Okay, thank you.
Just state your name, please, and when you're done, if you would just sign into the logbook, and so we.
My name is William Moran. I live on Mason Street in Onset. A couple of questions related to the events of this past week. First question I have is, I was told by a lady who answered the phone at municipal maintenance that, quote, all of the contractors quit. Is that true?
Mr. Sullivan, do you want to answer that, or do you want to look into it?
Well, my understanding is no, not all the contractors quit, although the contractors were unable to keep up with the snow, and instead of paying them $70 an hour to sit at the end of the streets, they were told to leave because they could no longer move the snow. So I don't know if that's the exact words she used, but this
The words used were that they quit, they bailed, quote unquote.
Okay.
My second question to follow that up is, what actions does the town tend to take to prevent this from happening again in the future?
To prevent a blizzard from happening?
No.
There are no actions we can undertake to prevent a blizzard from happening.
Did the town at any point consider requesting help from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts?
Yes, the Mass DOT will not come in unless they consider an emergency, and this was not considered an emergency.
The
MEMA,
national-
it goes through MEMA, and
Yeah.
they brought it into Lynn. They brought 2 loaders because Lynn, for some reason, was considered with 300 dead-end streets, able to do it. We were not allowed that.
The national,
You did not request any help from the National Guard
From the National Guard for plowing?
through MEMA?
No, we requested through MEMA for any help for plowing.
MEMA informed me that no request had been made from the town of Wareham.
Well, we
They
can
said they
talk
would be happy to provide whatever is necessary, including National Guard, but it had to be requested by the town and had not been.
Well, sir, I will tell you what, that's wrong. So you can get me the MEMA representative, and I will bring them to Lieutenant Walsek, and we will go over it.
Can you provide documentation that you requested it?
I don't know, ask Lieutenant Walsek.
No, I think, did you request this in writing, or was it just some conversation you had?
It would have been through Lieutenant Walsek.
By what medium?
Sir, I don't know.
Thank you. Does this board consider the response to this storm adequate, or are there changes planned for the future?
there will be a review in a couple of weeks, as they always do, and they'll go from there, sir.
Thank you. Lastly, I have to express one other thought, which I did not have until I came into this meeting. I have never, in my 63 years, witnessed such an unprofessional display as I saw from Mr. Teitelbaum. And I am
The name
personally
is
offended.
Teitelbaum, thank you.
Teitelbaum. I am personally offended. And I think everybody in this room and in this town should be offended that you are representative. Thank you and good night.
Well, they voted me in not once but twice, and furthermore, sir, my remarks were based upon what I listened to from citizens of this town for 5.5 hours out at municipal maintenance.
Thank you, but we don't respond to this.
Mr. Titlebaum, in all due respect.
Sir,
Yeah, I'd like to respond to his second
no,
comment.
because I think it's not appropriate in the first place. We're done. Thank you.
His comments are not appropriate.
Both.
Mr. Moran, if you could.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
I said both. We're getting to the point where
Thank
we're
you.
getting personal rather than discussing facts. We don't do personality here.
Mr. Moran, if you could also list who you contacted at FEMA with their information, I'd like that as well, please. MEMA, excuse me.
I do not have the name of the individuals that I spoke to from MEMA,
Okay.
but they were very clear. I asked specifically. They
Do you
said
know-
that a town official would have to request assistance. I said, has this been done? And the answer was no.
Okay, so we don't know who was spoken to. Do you know approximately what time?
This would have been probably about 4 PM on Wednesday.
Okay, thank you very much.
Anybody else? Citizen, David?
My name's David Maxim. I live on Lincoln Hill. I work for a company that part of my job's responsibility is snow removal. I left my house 6 o'clock Monday morning. Wasn't able to get home until late Tuesday for a little rest myself and back to work so I could continue on with my job. Wednesday I get home after 5 o'clock. And to my surprise, after my man that I've hired has come to my driveway twice and plowed it out, I could get my company vehicle into my yard, but I couldn't get my personal car out. I called municipal maintenance to ask them if they could send a plow out to clean out the end of my driveway that I paid over $100 to have cleaned out through the storm, and was told they didn't do that. Now, I used to work for a local contractor in town here that plowed state roads. Matter of fact, Route 6 right out front here. And I was told that if I plowed in somebody's driveway and they complained about it, by law, I was responsible to go back and clean it out. Now, which I did on a couple occasions, but I was very disappointed when I was told they weren't going to send the plow to clean out the end of my driveway. Thursday morning, I, being on the fire department, went to respond to a rollover on County Road. I couldn't get my personal vehicle out of the driveway. I was also listening to the radio about cars getting stuck on the main street in potholes. Now, I lived in this town for 60 years. Been a taxpayer for 39. A little disappointed in what I'm seeing at this last storm. I know there's 2 more storms coming, and I'm beginning to wonder because we've got just about enough room to get 2 cars up over Lincoln Hill passing one another. If we add any more snow and it doesn't get cleaned back, we're going to have cart paths. In my job, I've traveled from here to Brockton, from Brockton to Marshfield and back again. Not on all highways, they're all on local town roads. I'm ashamed to say that Wareham's were the worst. Is there any plans to rectify this in the future? Now, I've lived through a couple blizzards in this town, and I must say, this has got to be the worst I've ever experienced in this town. The town used to have a road grader. God bless Charlie Maxim. He used to run that thing up and down the streets, clean the streets down, push them back. We have a 3-lane road, Tremont Street and Main Street. It's now down to 2 lanes. Again, what's going to happen in the next 2 storms?
Mr. Maxim, I would ask town council if there is in fact a law that requires you to go back and plow out the end of the driveway. And then I would also say to you, sir, as Mr. Slavin said earlier, there will be a review of how things were handled and what improvements could be made. Thank you for your concerns. Appreciate them. You and I lived through 78, and that was about as much fun as stabbing yourself in the foot, right?
Well, I work for physical security for the government. I was stuck up in Hingham.
Were you for the whole time?
duration. Yeah, so,
I was in Boston, sitting at the Blizzard trying to get home. I remember that one well.
yeah.
I was at home, and I did not have power for a week.
Well, I
And
must
I
say,
live on a well, so
I'm very happy to say that we did not lose power during this last storm.
that was
It
wonderful.
was a thrill Christmas morning when I lost power, and I had my grandchildren there. Kind of put a damper on their spirits, but
Yeah.
like I say, I have a legitimate concern because I don't know what's going to happen. We're in the snow month, and the roads are narrow now.
Thank you for your concerns.
We'll try.
Thank you, Mr.
Simple as
Maxim,
that.
for your calm recitation before the board. I
I'd
will,
also like to say that I would commend the employees of municipal maintenance. I know they do their best doing that job. I can appreciate what they go through, like I say. And of course, I can't say enough about our emergency services.
Thank you.
thanks. There are roads all over the state, especially up towards Boston. 3-lane roads, all of a sudden you'll find the left turn lane is no longer there due to snow piled up. You know, as you approach an intersection, they might have a small median strip or something like that. Well, the snow is no longer contained to the median strip. It is now encroaching into the turn lanes. I know when you come out of Quincy from Bergen Parkway onto the little connector that takes you to 128, you'd best be hitting that at 65 miles an hour because you're coming out straight into the traffic. You don't have any merge ability. You can't coast along beside somebody, let them go ahead of you, or gauge your speed so that you can get ahead of them. You come out flying, or you stand a good chance of getting whacked. And interestingly enough, it's actually worse in the daytime. At nighttime, you can sort of pick up the headlights as they're coming up behind you. During the daytime, it's, you know, you might as well close your eyes and do it. There are issues all over the place. I know it seems that we may have more than others. That may actually be the case in some areas. In other areas, I can say we might be better than others. So,
Well, just going to relay a quick story. I went out to dinner with my mother the other night, and after the snowstorm, and she happened to relay a story that her father had her ride a horse to pull a wooden plow to plow out sidewalks. I don't know.
horses don't break down. You might be onto something.
Thank you.
Yeah, but they do leave a mess.
We had one other person in the back wanted to speak. Mr. Walton?
Hi, everybody. Dave
Evening.
Walton, District 3. I just have a question to the residents of the town of Wareham. What kind of people are we, anyway? I brought in some photos this morning to breakfast on the blizzard of 78 from my hometown, where no cars were going anywhere for a week. 2 days to get out of my driveway. I could clean my driveway if I wanted, which I didn't have the equipment to do it. It took me about 3 days to do it with a very powerful snowblower. But they had to borrow, I shouldn't say borrow, we had at that time a landfill, a dump. There were 2 huge bulldozers, and that's what they had to use to do. Take one swipe down the street as wide as these tables. That's it for emergency purposes. But if there was an emergency the first 2 days, no one would have gotten to my house. And you know the thing that was really interesting? No one complained. Everybody got friendly to each other. They walked downtown. Route 1A goes through Norwood, which is my hometown. That's a state road. No traffic on a state road. People were walking in the middle of Main Street. I've got photos walking. People wave, people standing on roofs of cars cleaning it out. Everybody was friendly. All I hear in this town is people moaning and groaning, and within a day, if you wanted to get out, it may not have been the best condition to drive your car on, but if you went out and gambled and bounced around, you could get out. That in itself says plenty. The number of people that were stuck for a whole day without being able to get out. My goodness gracious. This was a nasty, nasty blizzard. And if you haven't lived through 78, then listen to someone who has. This sort of thing doesn't happen very often. It's no different from a hurricane and saying I couldn't get at my car because a tree came down in front of the door. Where's the town coming to clean that tree out? I mean, it gets asinine after a while when people start complaining over stupid things. I had a neighbor of mine complain that the road wasn't cleaned, but there were 2 cars that were stalled on the road. I talked to the guy who does the plowing. He said, I couldn't get down there. 2 cars were stuck there. Yet the people are complaining about, I pay taxes and I do this and I do that. Enough, I'm sick of it. I think the town, all things considered, when this town does not usually get storms like that, you program ahead of town for a lot of light rigs, pickup trucks and what have you, and all of a sudden we get belted where a lot of the equipment couldn't handle it. So what does that mean? We all should stick our head in the sand and be ashamed? We should all cry and feel bad? No, doggone it. I think everybody did a pretty decent job considering what we have to offer. And that's not something to complain about. Let's be friendly and speak to each other and make it a warm town instead of constantly moaning and groaning. I apologize. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate people coming and venting. I mean, that's what we're here for. We're here to listen to them. Whether you agree with them or not, doesn't matter. But, you know, David brings up a good point. Because I sat and read. I had nothing to do, by the way, if you think that selectmen are privileged. This one's not, anyway. I live in Onset. And this particular storm, those big trucks started out in West Wareham. I think Claire Smith probably had something to do with that. I see her in the back. So by the time they got to Onset, hell, it was Thursday afternoon. I forget what time it was. Well, I missed our meeting. I couldn't get out, right? That was what, Thursday?
Thursday morning,
So,
10 o'clock.
so it was at least Thursday night before they opened the thing so I could get out. And Sean and I went out driving. But I got to tell you, to David's point, so all you're hearing today is a little bit of complaining, and that's okay. But the stories of neighbors, and that's what I remember from snowstorms in New Bedford, was that's the time you got to see all your neighbors because nobody went to work. And we had to shovel every single car on the street, whether it was yours or not. And that's Mrs. Walsh's car over there. That's Mrs. DePrado's car. My father made sure his 3 boys were around every single one of those cars. Nobody got away with it. And we get to the end of the street, we had to shovel the end of the street. And if people on Felton Street were in trouble, we had to go over there and shovel out Mrs. Cabral's backyard. And her sidewalk, and her, because she was an older woman. So, and there were stories like that, David, here, by the way, and people on Facebook, and people on the newspaper thing there. So there were many, many stories. Yeah, I think you saw that story about the poor lady at Shaw's who left her pocketbook in the cart. And when she went back, the pocketbook was there, and all the money was in it too. So let's not, degrade the whole town over some snow, because the snow brought out the best in a lot of people too. And we will do better. We always do better after you get something like this, and I think the next time we'll do better. I know we'll do better because we'll make some improvements where the experts think we need to make them. Thank you.
Next up is licenses and permits. We have none. Just a reminder.
No.
Yeah, please. On the licenses and permits, we do have the all-alcoholic license that became available. We have a due date of February 9th for anybody applying before we make a decision on that particular license, so don't forget that. Next, town business, we're going to go out of order a little bit. We're going to do the Veterans Council formation and vote first. Mr. Clerk, you want to read I think you have a copy of the actual committee membership, et cetera.
Yep. So this is going to go in as a town policy?
No.
This is going to go in as a Board of Selectmen appointed committee.
Right. Wareham Veterans Council Committee. There shall be a committee known as the Wareham Veterans Council, appointed by the Board of Selectmen. It shall consist of 9 members, who shall each serve a term of 3 years. The initial appointments shall be staggered so that the council seats become vacant each year. Membership eligibility. 1 member shall be designated by the VFW Post. 1 member shall be designated by the American Legion Post. You've got a better one than I'm reading?
That's the correct.
Okay,
Same thing.
No, it's got the numbers in it.
No, same basic.
Okay, starting off again with membership eligibility. 1 member of the council shall be designated by VFW Post 2846.
Correct.
1 member of the council shall be designated by the American Legion Post number 220. If these entities cease to exist, members may be designated from surviving or merged posts. 1 member of the council shall be the Veteran Services Officer. 3 members shall be honorably discharged veterans of the Armed Forces of the United States. 3 members shall be at-large members who may or may not be veterans. There may be at least 2 associate members. Invitations may be extended to the Wareham High School Army Junior ROTC program and to the Massachusetts Maritime Academy ROTC program. Associate members may vote and constitute part of a quorum in the absence of a quorum of regular members. Organization and rules. The committee shall elect its own chairman, vice chairman, and clerk to 1-year terms. As a public body, the council shall comply with all applicable laws, including but not limited to the open meeting law, public records laws, and ethics laws. Purpose: to advise the Board of Selectmen and/or town administrator concerning veterans events having a patriotic significance which are sponsored by the town, such as Memorial Day, Flag Day, Independence Day, Veterans Day, and services' birthdays. To plan, develop, and execute such veterans events and activities as the council may elect to undertake. To assist the veterans agent as may be appropriate. To promote the community awareness of veterans and veterans issues. To plan for and coordinate the placing and retrieving of flags on veterans' graves as may be appropriate and necessary. To develop and/or promote groups for veterans and their families. To plan and coordinate with the local VA hospitals a transportation program for veterans who need transportation to VA-administered programs. To advise the Board of Selectmen and/or town administrator concerning the appropriate maintenance of town monuments and veterans-related assets, including the memorial listings in Town Hall. To develop and support cooperation with local media, including local access TV, to highlight veterans' activities, issues, and programs.
May I?
Is that done as a motion?
Yes.
I move to establish this committee in accordance with the document which I just read into the record.
I need a second.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Titlebaum, second by Mrs. Whiteside. Any questions? Mrs. Whiteside?
Comments. This document was drawn up in conjunction with the interested parties. We spent a couple of weeks going back and forth on some terminology. And the wonderful part of this is that there are several people who have already applied. They're raring to go. And again, community spirit, and thank you so much.
And good evening also to our post gentlemen who are here.
Any other questions from the board? None heard, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 400. Thank you all.
Well, now
Thank you, gentlemen.
make the
We'll
appointments.
go ahead and we'll do the appointments for this that we have already, Peter.
Okay, we have already several interested members. First one, James E. Bruce of 12 Maud Palmer Drive. I move to appoint Mr. Bruce as a member of the Wareham Veterans Council to a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2018.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Titlebaum, second by Mr.
Holmes?
Holmes, sorry. I'm just looking at this here. Any questions? None heard, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 400.
You checking the rotation dates?
There should be a particular,
There should be a rotation date,
on this,
staggered dates.
it should be right on the application, the date
Okay.
on it.
2018, we got 2017,
Yep.
Okay,
2016.
thank you.
Okay.
So, looks like we're in the rotation. Next applicant, William R.C. White. The undersigned selectman of Wareham move to appoint you as a member of the Wareham Veterans Council to a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2018.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Titlebaum, second by Mrs. Whiteside. Any questions from the board? None heard, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400. Next.
Next, Steve Ruiz, 13 Depot Street, East Wareham. I move that the Board of Selectmen appoint Mr. Ruiz as a member of the Wareham Veterans Council to a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2018.
Need a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Titlebaum, second by Mrs. Whiteside. Any questions? None heard, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400. And that was the VFW representative.
Okay, next, Reverend Colin White, 35 11th Street, Onset, Mass. I move that we appoint Reverend Wright as a member of the Wareham Veterans Council to a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2017.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Titlebaum, second by Mrs. Whiteside. Any questions? None heard, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400. I have one more here, but Arthur, you're applying at large?
I have one here.
For him?
I have one for Mr. Roderick.
Yeah, good.
We have that, but we also have that
So-
one there, but I think on that one, we don't have a date.
This,
figure that
well, we
can
can
do
assign
that.
one.
Give me a minute, I can figure out the
We
other
can
one
figure
for
it out.
You figure that out, and I'll start with Mr. Roderick.
Yep.
Julio P. Roderick Jr., 123 Pine View Terrace, West Wareham. I move that the Wareham Board of Selectmen appoint Mr. Roderick as a member of the Wareham Veterans Council to a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2016.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Titlebaum, second by Mrs. Whiteside. Any questions? None heard, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
abstained, 400. If you just give me a minute, people, I just want to look at the expiration date so we can do one more. I've got 17, 16, 16, that's the same. What do we have for Mr. Ruiz?
You have it right there.
No, I don't.
Did you do Mr. Ruiz?
Yes.
What's the date on that one, Peter?
What?
Ruiz.
I don't have it back yet. It's in circulation.
Oh, got it
Ruiz.
here, never mind. Thank you. Yeah,
Ruiz.
Stephen, it's 18,
I recollect we had 3 that were 2018.
18. Okay, so we can do,
You can do it.
Mr. Lee for 17, if you want to make a note, and then we won't be able to sign it, he'll have to sign it at the office. If that's okay with everybody, I'll need a motion on that one, Peter.
Okay, I move that we appoint Arthur Lee Jr. of 2309 Cranberry Highway, West Wareham, to a term on the Wareham Veterans Council to expire no later than June 30th, 2017.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Titlebaum, second by Mrs. Whiteside. Any questions? None heard, all in favor? Opposed,
Aye.
abstained, 400. Thank you.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you, guys.
Just thank you for
Appreciate it.
stepping up.
Your
Paperwork will be available tomorrow. Arthur, yours might be a little later in the day because she's got to print it all out. No problem. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
We look forward
And what
to
will
this.
happen is you'll go up and get the paperwork at the Selectman's office, bring it down to the town clerk, and take the oath of office down there. Thank you.
And if it's okay with you, may I be your liaison? Or do you want one of the boys?
She's better.
Thanks.
Okay, next up on the agenda, I believe we were going to do Mr. Evans, get David out of here.
Yes.
David, you want to come up for a minute? What this is Mrs. Whiteside and one of her volunteers have been working on ambulance billing and things, and came across a adopted policy of June 27th, 1995 by the Board of Selectmen. It's not in our policy book, which kind of threw me for a loop because I couldn't find any information on it. It talks about charges, different things here. The board basically should have had this maybe for a week now. I don't know if anybody's really ready to discuss it, but I think it's something we should look at. And what I'd like to do is assign it to Mrs. Whiteside to come back to the board if there's any changes needed for the policy, but to work with Mr. Evans to make sure we're all on the same page,
Mrs. Whiteside or her designee?
or her designee. But I think that would be the best thing for us, simply because we spent the last year reviewing all our policies, updating all of them, And here we have one that's not even in our book or anything. Comments from the board, please.
Are there, Mr. Evans, are there others that
This is the
you're
only one.
aware of?
No, this is the only policy that we have.
Okay. Thank you for being so helpful and providing the information that you've been giving us.
And I think maybe we could combine the policy that needs to be done for the auditor on the write-offs.
For the what?
The audit report.
Yes,
Maybe we just
absolutely.
make it all one policy and
That would
roll
probably
it over.
work well, yeah. Okay, so Mrs. Whiteside and/or her designee will continue to work with you, and again, thank you for your cooperation, and I would say 2 or
Couple
3
weeks?
weeks maybe, because we have an RFP that also needs to be looked at, right?
Yeah,
Right.
soon.
Well, we can do the RFP sooner than we can probably do this. Again, you've been very busy with the storms, and we appreciate that, so,
Okay.
Do we need to formalize this with a vote?
no.
No, because we're not
Designated
going,
select
we're
board
not going,
decider.
no, we're not going to adopt anything until it comes back with an actual
Mm.
policy.
No, Ms. Whiteside and/or her designee, Mr. Evans and Mr. Sullivan.
Yes, I'm sorry,
Yes, I'm
Mr.
sorry,
Sullivan also.
yes.
It's part of the whole thing, because
Yep.
it's got billing involved.
Yep.
Sorry,
his
sorry we
designee.
missed you.
Yeah. How could we miss you? You
I
haven't
have a
been waving your
designee?
stick.
Mr. Chairman,
You have a designee in the back there. Yes.
to be clear, is this a Board of Selectmen policy or
Yes.
or an ambulance policy that was
It's a Board of
adopted by the board?
It was the Board of Selectmen.
It's not in the book?
It's not in the book already?
I don't recall this coming up. It looks old,
It is old.
It is 95.
It just got lost in the weeds.
20 years ago.
There's also a billing and collection policy from 2005, neither of which are in the book.
Because there's not a number on this either.
No.
I didn't
No.
know maybe if it was a
Mr.
department.
Evans
No,
is,
this was prior to my
right,
taking
This
over,
is
so I
before
don't.
all, so rather than
yeah.
assume anything, we'll just go ahead and go through
And
it.
it's
Just
gonna
clean
end
it up.
up in the book.
It needs to
Right.
be in the book.
This is something that fell through the cracks, obviously, previously.
And again, Mr. Evans is correct. It was noted in the audit, and you're one step ahead of next
Yeah, I
year's
think
response, so
that's-
that's awesome.
For the write-offs for the bad debt, but we can
Yes.
put it all in one policy.
Excellent.
Yep.
Congratulations, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in, David, we
right.
appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Evans.
Next up, we'll go back to Cedar, and then we'll do the
Uh,
school.
Mr. Sullivan has requested perhaps we could get the school folks in and out quick,
Okay,
because I don't think their presentation is really all that long, is it?
sorry, Sal, you have to wait a little bit.
Come
Michael,
on down.
Can I claim I didn't see you over there, Sal?
Before we
He's short,
start,
but he's not that short.
even though most people will know you, why don't you both introduce yourself, please?
Good evening. We're here to talk, Kim Shaver.
Just in case people don't know.
Okay, Kim
I mean, I
Shaver,
see
Hood,
it at the gym, but not
Superintendent.
everybody else
Hi.
does.
Michael McMillan, School Business Manager.
We're here to talk to you about a possible vote that we would ask you to take next week about having DECAS put on for MSBA accelerated repair. We're looking at the John DECAS, the E-corridor roof to be repaired, as well as a replacement boiler. And if I could show you the pictures of the E-corridor roof while I'm showing you, then Mr. McMillan could give a little bit more explanation.
Okay, thank you.
So, as you know, we're actually just in the process of completing MSBA project at the high school, where at a rate of 68% return from the MSBA, we were able to replace the high school roof. So I think that's been a real success for the district and the town, and hopefully that'll make a big difference to the school. And now we're hoping to do something similar at DECAS, where they're in need of a replacement roof for the E-corridor roof. It's as you can see from those photographs, has had multiple patches over 15 years. There's still constant leaks. It's also obviously not energy efficient, and it is disruptive to schooling when you have constant leaks. You know, kids having to walk around buckets, damage to the building, and so on. There's also we have 2 boilers at the moment that are original with when the building was built. They're both past the end of their useful life. I mean, they're still operating, but both have a lot of leaks. They have a lot of they're inefficient as well. So the warming of the schools is patchy. So parts of the school be warm, parts of the school be cold, and so on. One of the boilers is almost when it's in use, it's multiple excessive leaks. So that's currently not available. We have looked at getting it repaired. And obviously, if necessary, that's the route we'll have to go down. It's about $17,500 to get the repairs necessary just to get up and running. But obviously, we'd much rather be able to replace that with something that would be more efficient and more reliable. So that's what we're looking to do. The process is that we submit this as just a statement of interest to the Massachusetts School Building Authority. This is basically just putting our name on the list saying we'd like to do this, this is a project we'd like to do. In order for us even to do that part, we need to get a vote from the Board of Selectmen and from our school committee. So I think the idea is MSBA want to see that everybody's behind the project and there is a will in the town. So we're hoping to do that, and then I mean that's just the first step in the process. It doesn't guarantee any money, I'm afraid. It just gets us started. And the next step, if you're then chosen to join the MSBA program, the first step would be to do a feasibility study, which is when they'd have the architects come out and look at whether or not what the actual cost and project would be to do the work intended, and then we'd be back in front of you and possibly town meeting to get the funding to do that.
So basically what we're going to do here is we'll come back next week on our agenda, vote that the board, basically endorses going after this, and the next piece goes down the line probably for fall town meeting.
Exactly.
We'll come back with a warrant article for fall town meeting in order to fund, our portion. Actually, I think last time we had to fund all of it, and then the money came back as it came through. Mr. Sullivan?
With the reimbursements on there, and then we're actually borrowing for the full cost. The last go-round at the high school was, simply a tremendous success.
Yeah, it worked
The
out
price
well.
came in excellent.
Yeah,
so
it's been really
job
great.
well done. Appreciate
It's been excellent. We've actually put as our placeholder article in for the spring meeting, just in case we do get going with this, that, so we're not waiting for, because you got to get the approval, and we don't have to wait for the fall meeting, so it's a little presumptuous, but just in case we get to go ahead with it, so.
So you might be presenting an article for the Springtown meeting?
If this goes ahead, that was the advice from the MSBA.
Okay.
If it goes ahead, because there are certain steps on the critical path, and if that will hold you up. So if you don't get if we need a meeting approval for the feasibility study, we would be able to do it at Springtown meeting.
So remember, we close, I think it's the 17th, without looking at the date for the articles that have to go in.
So we put in a sort of placeholder.
So you would have to put a placeholder in. We're moving it back 1 week from the 2nd to the 9th because of the town closing as much as it did, so the town departments can still get their stuff in. So we'll be closing the non-citizens participation articles, which I was going to announce later on to the 9th.
Oh, thank you. So we did submit a draft to the Secretariat, and she has come back with some changes.
Okay. We just need to get that reviewed, so
Yeah,
we can go ahead and approve to put it on the warrant article.
No problem.
Okay. Any questions to the board? Mr. Titlebaum?
Nope. Done this
Mrs.
before.
Whiteside?
Yes, just a couple. I was not in the room when you started. This, the boiler is how old? As old as the building?
1974.
As old
Yeah,
as
as
the
old as the
building.
building.
Okay, so we're lucky
60s?
that it's still pumping along.
We
We
are.
are. And it's
Okay.
not, so we have two. One is used as a backup,
Okay.
but it's got so many leaks. And they're both old. Our nerves, one of our anxieties is if these both die on us, we don't have school. It's because they're so.
And then, is that a flat, that's not a flat roof.
No, it's an asphalt with pebbles on, the rocks on top.
It's got a slight peak.
It's a
Okay,
slight
slight.
peak, but it's not
Yeah.
flat.
No.
Close
Okay.
enough, though.
And my understanding is that the Deacon School is the place that MEMA and Lieutenant Walczak would actually like to have a shelter as opposed to a warming center. So this is something that would benefit the
Yeah.
entire community in a situation like we just had.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the only facility that they would even consider right now, especially
Right.
with flood zones and such.
Right.
It's the only one.
Oh, interesting.
Mr.
Close.
The pictures reminded me of a question I have. At the Deacon School, the land there, you see that in your pictures, you have the soccer
Yep.
post, right? I learned to love football when I was in London for 6 months. That's all you could see on TV over there, right?
That's excellent.
Who controls that land? Is that
The school.
The school
Yeah,
department?
yeah, absolutely, yeah. And we have a lot of people using it, but
Oh.
it comes through the school.
Baseball field there.
Yeah,
and that's
yeah.
my point to you. At some point, I think I know everything costs money, right? But maybe we could work on some fundraising. It's very dangerous there on the weekends in the summer. seen people get hit with baseballs, little kids get
Yeah,
hit with
or-
baseballs, ladies get hit with baseballs. They, because where those containers are,
Yeah.
they go play soccer down in this side, near the tree line, and they also play in front of the containers, right? So the kids you have a great New Bedford League there, what do you call it? Not grapefruit, Gateway baseball play there. And those kids hit the ball down near those
Yeah.
containers, and there's people there.
Yeah.
They walk right across the baseball field, right? And
Yep.
kids have gotten hit with baseballs there. It's very
That's-
dangerous.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially in the spring and the summer. So maybe we should put together a fundraiser and get some former
Yeah.
gatemen or somebody from the Gatemen League, Gateway League, whatever they call that, right? To put up a fence in their honor on your school property.
Yeah.
It's,
I'm telling you, one of them would do it. All we gotta do is ask.
actually, the soccer fields were improved by the Wareham Youth Soccer Group. They've spent a lot of money, and I think they turfed it, actually. So that the youth groups that do use it have been putting back in
Yeah.
to the facilities that they use.
I think also,
All I was talking about was the danger.
No, I know, I
Yeah,
understand.
It's very dangerous there.
I believe the open space with the playground for the study, I think that's in the, I think they have some of the school facilities in there as well.
Yeah,
They-
there was.
Because they're gonna be using CPA funds, Steve, for that. They're going down the line.
So
with
can
that.
they, recommend something on the school grounds?
I
They
believe
did.
the open space study
But I think
included.
that was at Minot.
It was there was a
Because there's a-
recommendation on mine
Minot.
to pull,
Exactly.
and at Everett to pull it out because it was
Just-
unsafe.
Where's
in the middle of
Jeff
it.
doing the tennis courts? Where's that money coming from?
CPA and
Same
Same,
money we're
yeah.
talking about.
Same thing.
It
All right,
wouldn't
so
take
if
much.
they don't have that, you can check with open space.
Yeah.
If they don't have that in there, you probably would recommend to include
don't
that in
think
their
they do.
work.
No, I don't think so.
They
Yeah,
may
well,
have,
no,
may have
because-
not included it, I don't know why. but-
Because it's school.
Yeah, but still, it's a playground for kids when the school's not running, at the end of the day. Okay, so we'll see you, actually,
week.
I don't think we have any reason, we're just gonna voting, because we didn't basically list it in the agenda, so we really
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
vote today, as I said. We'll take care of that next week on Tuesday, and we'll go from there.
The only thing I would say is MSBA sticklers for language. So we've given you there's the
I know you
vote
gave us,
language. So
you gave us a
we'd be
little
very
thing to go
grateful.
by.
We've got the one from Minot.
yeah.
Now, we have the one here, too.
I also.
You do?
Yeah, it's what's in our package that we got. It's there exactly as they want.
Yeah. Thank
Very
you much.
tactful, Mr. McMillan, very
Yes, that
tactful.
was nice of
And
you.
a great job
Thank
during
you.
the storm. And one question, did any children get hurt?
No.
Zero.
0.
Outstanding. That's number one.
Yeah.
Good
Thank
job.
you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Mr. Pina, your turn. This is our usual CEDAR update. CEDAR Board, we try and get them in after they do their monthly meeting, which is usually the first Monday of the month. Unfortunately, with a storm yesterday, the CEDAR Board did not meet, but Mr. Pina asked if he could come forward and explain a few things, and I'll be scheduling them back in for next Tuesday, to finish up what we don't do tonight. Thank you. Go ahead, Sal.
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for allowing me to get here today. I'll try to be brief, just a couple of things. One of them, as you know, we put in a grant for the hospitality. It was a hospitality grant. We worked with the Cape Cod Regional, the Cape Cod Community College and the New Bedford Workforce Board. We had the France Hospitality Group and folks from Bay Point Golf Course, and we received the grant was for $300,000, and we received a favorable review. We do not have a contract yet. We're waiting for the governor's final cuts to make sure that the program doesn't get cut. But I did want to just give you that information. In anticipation of the grant, we did some work with the La France Hospitality Group. They're planning to open up their hotel in March. And so you may have noticed all the activity at Town Hall a week or so ago. And I'm very pleased to let you know that because of that collaboration, we were able to get the La France group to do their recruitment on site at Town Hall. And we made applications available for town residents. And I want to tell you, it exceeded my expectations. They were starting out with only 14 positions. They had well over 200 applicants for the 14 positions. I think they ended up interviewing about 20 people for those positions. And the majority, I would say about 80% of those folks were Wareham residents. So I don't know who finally got the jobs, but I do know that Wareham residents were very well represented. And I am certain of this fact that if we had not been involved, that all would have taken place in New Bedford at the New Bedford Career Center. And I'm certain we wouldn't have got the same kind of representation. So really excited about that, and wanted to, let folks know that because we were able to do it in Town Hall, we get a lot of good support. The other thing that I just wanted to talk briefly about is, as you know, our grant is due on the 13th, and I have been buried away preparing that grant, which is a really challenging grant. And so one of the things that I did was I prepared a summary for you as well as for my board. We were supposed to review this yesterday, but because we didn't have our meeting, we weren't able to review it. But I don't want that to stop me from giving that to you. I'd like to give it to you so that you have a chance to read through it. It's a short 6-page summary, and what I did was I summarized the components of our grant, but what I also did, and I think you'll get a lot of good knowledge from, is I gave you the updates on where we are with the 12 grant, the 13 grant, and the 14 grant. Now, the 12 grant's closed. We're in the closing process for that, and so you can see the final results of that grant. The 13 grant, we're required by law to be 80% expended in that grant, but prior to making the application for this grant, which we are. And the 14 grant, which just began obviously in October. So you'll see all of the results of that, and I included those in here for comparison purposes so you could kind of get a sense. I had hoped to give this to you before, but the storm took a bite out of my work as well. So I'd like to ask that if you have any questions between now and the time I come next Tuesday, if you could forward those to the chair, the board, the selectman chair, Mr. Slavin, and he can send them to me. I'll be happy to draft some comments for those. Just so that, if that's I'm assuming that's the appropriate way to handle that. Because I think it's important. I'm going to give you a lot of information, and if you have questions, please feel free to ask them. The one other thing I'd like to say is the CETA board has not seen this yet. This is going out to them in the email tomorrow, so they'll have this for them to review, and we're going to meet prior to our meeting on next Tuesday. But they've approved all of the activities in the application. So we've had conversations about them, and they've been in favor of the activities in the application.
Mr. Sullivan, you've also discussed this with Mr. Pena as well.
Yes, we've gone over these before.
Yeah.
So.
And I have a copy for you as well to read.
Thanks.
Mr. Titlebaum, any questions?
Nope. Just interested to see where the allocations
All
are.
Yep.
Mrs. Whiteside?
Thank you.
Mr. Holmes?
These questions in general?
No.
Because you know I have questions.
Next week on Tuesday.
Next week,
Yes.
the CETA director can't answer questions.
Steve, Mike.
Mr. Chairman.
No, what it is his board's supposed to be here with him, that's why.
Oh.
He's just letting us know.
You wouldn't know some of the answers.
No, because
Director.
the board basically, he reports
Use
to the
the
board.
mics, boys.
He reports to the board.
Of the week.
Yeah, because we would postpone this, but he wanted to tell us.
Well, I can tell you, then, I'll tell you right now to your face, that I want a complete story, a big one, as we're about to.
Mike.
Close.
Answers to all the questions I've asked so far, and I have 3 or 4 additional questions that I've already related to you. And I'd like to have all those questions answered next week.
Next week. on
Because
Tuesday.
maybe it's time that, we start having gentlemen come in, and citizens of Onset rise up and come in here every week and form a line and ask you the questions every week during citizens' participation. And since we've been dragging this along now for at least a year, we need to get some answers. And we're not getting any answers. 0. And I don't think you could disagree with that too much. So
That request.
hopefully we'll get those answers started next week, and then I'll be happy.
Yeah,
as will many be happy.
that's requirement of the CETA board. The CETA director doesn't have control on that.
He doesn't have any information either.
He doesn't have control on that.
Right.
That information.
Right.
Anything else? Thank you, Sal. We'll see you next Tuesday.
Thank you.
Thanks
If
for your
you
time
can-
tonight.
If you can, double check with Gene to make sure who they're gonna send with you.
Yeah.
Because Gene is still out of town. Thank you.
Next week, can we remind to bump them up since we bumped him back this
Yes, we
week?
will bump them up first. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sal.
Okay. Mr. Sullivan, do you want to do your budget now, or do you want to wait till we get done with the articles and stuff?
We can go through the articles first.
Okay.
Pardon me?
No, you haven't got it yet.
No.
No,
No.
he was gonna put it in the mail
This is
tomorrow.
hot off the presses. I just got this, for you. I had it, I prepared at the end of last weekend.
gonna say, it seems like I just read it back exactly like this today.
No, actually, you would have, you're on the list for the CETA board, so you would have got the report portion on the back. That's probably what looks familiar to you. But the rest of it about the grant, I just finalized all of that today, okay? And so, if you have, like I said, if you have questions, you let me know. Thank you very much.
See what you have for articles.
I have 4 from community preservation.
Do you want to just
Doesn't
read?
really seem to make much sense to me to vote on those without community preservation here to explain what they are.
Well, the question we have for this is not so much that, we're not voting whether to approve, be in favor or not in favor.
No, but even to put them on the warrant.
We should be able to read them, to go through them, and see. If we have a question, we'll hold them till next week. The chairman is not available.
Well, then if their chairman is not available, then I really think we should hold them until next week.
Okay. Anything else?
We do have a couple of, I don't call them miscellaneous ones. One is to see if the town will vote to accept a release of property interest from the Mass Rail MBTA as on file in the office of the town clerk. This relates to the, I don't know that this language was, I'm going to ask, with your indulgence, I'm going to ask Attorney Bowen to take a look at this because he and I actually worked on this one. It doesn't even reference the property in particular. Moving on, there is one here. This is at the request of the sealer of weights and measures to set a new fee schedule.
Yeah, we had already gone through that
We'd
before.
gone through that. He
He had
gave
appeared
it,
before us
yes,
and provided this information.
yes,
Yes.
So I'm just reiterating for the public, so we know what this is all about.
yes, we
I'd
did.
ask for a motion to put that, to include that in our town meeting warrant.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Whiteside, second by Mr. Titlebaum. Any questions? None heard, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? Okay, what else do we have?
That's what I have in the folder.
No, no. What are these?
That's not what's in this folder.
I have others that are not,
Right, you've got the Article 1, the election, you've got...
no.
These should have been in the folder and also should have been in everybody's packet.
Why do you have them? It says clerk on it.
No, it's from the
No,
clerk's
It's
office.
from the
Not-
clerk's office. No. These were in my packet.
I hate to do this stuff when we're disorganized.
And the one from the clerk's office would fall under the capital plan when we do the annual capital plan. That should be for voting machines, and I am
Right.
very much in favor of that one. But I think it should fall under the capital plan, because the only way to take the money would be from the balance of the free cash that we have.
Pass on that one. What else?
Pete, do you have the clerks?
No.
No, they only have the small packages. This stuff just came today. I don't think we can do anything with it.
The the WPCF should be for establishing a capital stabilization fund, as well as making a transfer therein.
That's
Two.
correct.
We're gonna need to review these before we vote on them.
Did you not have any of these?
No, he just
They're
got,
not in,
they came
I
in-
have them, but they're not in,
I have them too.
Yeah,
right.
they're not in the regular.
They're not in the clerk packet.
We'll do them next Tuesday. I don't wanna go through anything unless we know what it is.
I did good Wednesday.
Depending on
Wednesday may
so-
work better.
What was the issue with the, is the DOT on the train station?
The issue that I see is it doesn't refer to the property locus. You can be pretty specific there.
Yeah, whenever that was written over, it looks like, what, there's
Yeah.
a few words missing?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, when we wrote it up, I recollect that there were about 6 more words in it
And
than,
what's there?
yeah.
We'll put that off until next week also. I believe that's we're asking to remove the reverter clause on the old New Haven Railroad, where they gave us the land and everything, but kept the reverter clause in that anytime they decided they could take the station back from us. Yes? Okay.
So that would make it a much more developable
Well,
opportunity.
that basically, they said that if we went and did the legal work, that they would go ahead and sign and basically take that out of the contract, which means we could do whatever we want with that piece of property. Right now, we're restricted to maintain a 1,500 square foot building for transportation use, which they could basically take back anytime they decided to.
Right.
With the bathrooms as well in there.
The whole
so,
thing?
yeah.
So we want to, before we go ahead and do anything, we want to make sure we get that back in there. Do we have any other articles?
I want to say, was it Madam Moderator who's here tonight? Was it 2 weeks ago, or 2 Thursdays ago, we met, and with town council, we started shelling out the warrant for the recurring articles.
Yep.
Which are the ones that get voted on every year, revolving funds.
I think this
the election, the same stuff that always appears on the warrant.
This came in that we got probably on the 27th of
Yeah.
of this one, that has some of them, but I'm not sure these are correct the way they're worded.
Well,
We'll go through them on either tomorrow or Thursday, make sure.
exactly.
Again, the last thing we want to do is put something on the town warrant that's incorrect and wrong.
That's hence my thanks for your agreeing to hold off on some of this stuff.
You're welcome. As I said, because of the loss of the storm, we only have 2 more meetings in which to get this done before the warrant closes. Okay,
There is, let's see,
special town meeting, we have to set the dates and notice and intent.
Mhm.
Should be in your folder there, Peter.
okay, this is one of those, I gotta read it into the record deals.
Yep, you
Town
do.
of Wareham, Board of Selectmen, 54 Marion Road. This is in the context of a motion, by the way. Wareham, Massachusetts, 02571. Notice of April 27th, 2015, special town meeting, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Plymouth SS, to either of the constables of the town of Wareham in the name of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and in accordance with the provisions of Division 1, Article 1, Section 3 of the bylaws of the town of Wareham amended. You are hereby directed to notify and warn the legal inhabitants of the town of Wareham that a special town meeting has been called by the Board of Selectmen and held at 7:30 p.m. on Monday, April 27th, 2015, at which time the business of the town meeting shall be transacted. The last day for submission of articles to be inserted in the warrant is Thursday, March 12th, 2015. Petition articles will be accepted up until 5 p.m. The warrant for this meeting will close on Tuesday, March 17th, 2015. You are hereby directed to serve this notice by posting attested copies thereof in at least one public place in each precinct within the town on or before Friday, March 20th, 2015. Hereof, fail not and make due return of this posting with your doings thereon to the town clerk, given under our hands at Wareham this 3rd day of February in the year 2015. A true copy, attest, Wareham Board of Selectmen, Alan H. Slavin, Chairman, Patrick G. Tropiano, Clerk, Stephen M. Holmes, Peter W. Titlebaum, Judith Whiteside.
Second.
Any questions from the board?
Oh, do you have to do this?
None heard? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 400.
Now, I also see one of your notes on this agenda, Mr. Chairman.
That's for town business. We have
Right,
Mr. Sullivan's budget first.
Okay.
Then we'll do that.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, before we reach the budget as well, just the FY15, the spring capital plan, that will have to go on to into special town meeting, because if it goes to the annual, free cash is no longer
I
certified.
believe we have a March 12th date in order for us to close that out, to put them on the warrant, if
Okay,
I remember right.
excellent.
We need to read this.
Well, we've already, that's just for our own records and stuff. We've already done that, it's posted. That's all set.
Yeah.
Mr. Sullivan's budget is next.
To the Honorable Wareham Board of Selectmen, I submit the FY16 budget proposal. In FY15, the budget was balanced by cutting services and positions that impacted the following areas: Council on Aging, Library, Police Department, Municipal Maintenance, the town's financial team. Not highlighted in here, but of special consideration as well, is the school department. These decisions were not made lightly and reduced services to the town's residents. New revenues are projected to increase by $1,626,629, which represents a 2.83% increase over the previous fiscal year's revenues. To keep that number in perspective, FY16 non-departmental costs are projected to increase by $1,723,209, or 9.7% over what was budgeted for those same costs in FY15. The budgets requested by the town school departments outpace available revenues by $2,230,334, and expenses will need to be cut in order to balance the budget. To provide the board with as much information as possible, two budgets are being brought forth. One, referred to as the requested budget, that provides the total requests and priorities of the town and school departments. Number two is the balanced budget, which provides the balanced budget and recommended administration priorities to the board. The FY16 balanced budget priorities are as follows: public safety, financial accountability, funding the school department budget at a level that is at least 7.6% higher than the estimated minimum net school spending requirement, and risk management. The FY16 balanced budget also changes the way in which Wareham accounts for the costs associated with the school district. For the first time, the school is provided with a lump sum budget in which they're required to directly pay for such items as health insurance, retirement benefits, and general insurances. As part of the change, there's a proposed mitigation fund that can be accessed only by a town meeting vote. The Wareham voters made it clear that there will be no supplement to the town's revenues. The employees, elected officials, and volunteers will need to continue to be creative and dynamic in the pursuit of delivering quality services. The FY16 balanced budget contains new practices and ideas that will require buy-in from the Board of Selectmen, School Committee, and Finance Committee. When you see with the revenue increases, real estate and personal property taxes increased by $1.184 million, a little over that. State aid set to increase just below $95,000. Local receipts we're projecting to increase by about $316,000. The major increases in that are the new hotel is expected to increase rooms tax by $136,000. And motor vehicle excise is projected to increase by $170,000. We're now on the first wave of when they're actually moving up. Motor vehicle excise tax is actually still lower than it was close to 7-8 years ago.
Yeah.
Enterprise fund will increase direct indirect costs will increase just under $50,000, and that accounts for the increased cost for the employees where we pay for their health insurance and such. So it's a total of a 2.83% increase. The town departments have requested a little over $1.1 million. The school, about $963,000. Fixed costs and other fixed costs, about $168,767. Benefits and general liability are increasing by about $764,000. Offsets in the state assessments by close to $600,000. The state assessments by far have been increasing dramatically. One of the major lines is the school choice sending, which this year increased mid-year by almost $250,000, bringing it just under $1 million a year. We are assessed for students leaving our district to go to
Student choice.
Correct.
Thank you.
Upper Cape Cod Tech, there will be 12 new students going there, and we're projecting, besides their cost, a modest 2% increase to their budget. The total increases, if we were to pass that budget, which is the unbalanced, is $3,790,984, which is 6.79% higher than the FY15 budget. As we've already gone over what our new revenues are, clearly that cannot happen.
Can't work.
Our medical insurance right now is projected to go up $403,000, a little over, which is the lowest increase that we've seen in multiple years as part of going to the Mayflower Municipal Health Insurance Group. That remains one of the moves that we've done to save money for the residents and taxpayers. We're looking to experience close to 20% increases in general liability and workers' comp because of the mods and experiences. So again, non-departmental costs are going up about 1.7 million when our new revenues are 1.6 million. We know that the increases requested by the town side were what's essentially 5 years worth of contract negotiations with 10 out of 11 unions, which will represent $270,000. That does not include the patrolman sergeants union, which is by far would be an additional cost. We're looking to fund the department, the police department, at a higher level, including having 2 lieutenants for a town this size, another detective, 4 officers, and looking to expand the dispatchers. An additional IT staff member, 2 additional municipal maintenance staff, and to maintain the library staffing with no outside funds. That increase would be about $83,000, because what we fund them at right now, the $125,000 is being supplemented by some of the outside funds, which will dry out for the next year. Some of our expenses that have come about were the town now has the Hammond, Everett, and West schools. The expenses will increase roughly $67,000. We're seeking to expand the cruiser lease program. Last year, we were able to lease, or this fiscal year, 3 cruisers. We had just under $100,000. That amount, the cost for that was about $68,000. So if we can put an additional $35,000 in there, that will give us. We know we can now stagger it where we'll have 3 new, then you'll have 6 cruisers, and you'll start going through the whole one. And every 3 years, you'll be moving those out of the system. Because when you realize by 3 years, they have roughly 120,000 miles on them of hard use. Technology training and email. Our email company, which we've all had fits with lately, is officially going out of business, if you will, for the municipal side. Meaning, most likely we will have to go with someone like Microsoft and Google, which right now, that's about a $30,000 increase.
I think they're trying to drive us away anyways.
From the outages,
The system fails on an hourly basis.
The maintenance contracts on the town hall virtualization, which is up and running, we're going to have a substantial increase on that as well. And municipal maintenance is looking for road repair and safety, and even to have, we don't have a tree or brush cutting department anymore. They've done away with it. So just having some of the funds to move some of that brush back, and so that you can have better visibilities on the road. So these are some of the major increases you'll see in our requests from the town side.
Just a quick question, Mr. Sullivan. So we're looking right now at 2 part-time municipal maintenance staff, and that's it? That's part-time?
That's really part-time. We moved one operator to a mechanic, because we only had 1 mechanic for all our machines. And frankly, having 1 person in there with the lifts and the heavy machinery, completely unsafe.
Without getting into anything at all, we need to find some way to get more staff in municipal maintenance, because if we're going to try and, resolve the problems we have, we can have plenty of equipment, but if we don't have bodies, it doesn't matter.
And then right now, we don't even have the equipment. Our newest piece of equipment for snow and ice removal is 10 years old.
Yeah, so we need to look at this as well. Just a question, that's all. Thank you.
I'd been asked a question during the storm as well, and I related it back to the gentleman there. And roughly out of our entire budget, when it breaks down, municipal maintenance is about 2.82%, just under 3% of our entire budget.
It's not good.
When we break it down, the total educational general fund portion spending would be about a little over $38 million, or 66% of the budget. The municipal general fund spending, and this on both sides, it includes all the health care costs and associated costs, about $17 million. I have increased the proposed debt service for borrowing for about 1.75 million, which is almost a $1 million increase, because this is, for the first time, what we've had, borrowing is cheap, and that's one of the few ways that we can actually bring new equipment in, that we can fix items, just like the high school roof, just like the Deacon's roof. Instead of piecemealing things, we know that it's easier to fix it once and do it right. The public safety portion of the town's budget is almost 55%, just under 6 million. And public safety, people need to understand, is not just police. It's also inspectional services and the Board of Health and other related departments. Municipal maintenance portion of just the town budget is a little over 18%, or 1.9 million. That includes the snow and ice budget and the entire municipal maintenance staff. So again, the general fund budget would be proposed at $57,443,886.
We have coming off, I think in 2017, I think we start 2017, our debt service, I think, drops quite a bit.
Yes, unfortunately, what we've been doing, and it's been trending down, instead of borrowing again and keeping at a steady level, we've been using those to supplement other budgets.
Yeah, it would be really good if we could basically come up with a straight line to keep that level. That's one way you're allowed to keep replacing stuff. You keep that debt level steady, so you have a steady number constantly, but so there's no up and downs, because we end up reacting when it's like an emergency, instead of just basically planning what I call a maintenance plan. So that'll be good to get that back up at a level where we can not only afford it, but we can pay for it. Thank you. Have any questions from the board? Mr. Titlebaum? Stop shaking your head.
Well, it's just a matter of so many needs and so little money.
Mrs. Whiteside?
Thank you for
Oh,
putting
sorry.
together a very detailed presentation, which you actually gave to us before. It's not a question of not having any money. It's a question of not having enough money for all of the needs that we have, and therefore choices have to be made, and they are very tough choices. I congratulate you on a very well-done document.
Yeah, just two quick questions. Derek, I'm sure you have a point where the Wareham Crossing, Walmart, right? And maybe there are some others that I can recall over the years where we deferred taxes and things like that. Where on your chart do those things start to become revenue?
You've already experienced on Wareham Crossing. In 2006,
Are we at 100%?
for Wareham Crossing,
Yes.
they're fully taxed.
Yeah, for a while.
Is there any other properties that we're waiting
You would have
to come off?
would be T. Marzetti, the Chatham Crouton, which we
That was
just
just
did the
done.
first, and the hotel as well, but we're receiving the hotel motel excise tax on that.
I think
And
one-
that's it?
Yeah.
That's all we got?
That's
it.
what.
Isn't that
And-
what's
and-
Walmart?
And if you had a project that could potentially bring in revenue of $500,000 a year, would you find that that was an important project to pursue as a town?
Yes, we would look for
Do
any
you think
sort.
that $500,000 a year is important?
Yes. Yeah.
Good, thank you very much.
I think also the crouton factory, which we're talking about, I think is only a $5,000 cost to the town, if I remember.
Yeah, theirs ended up being about $5,000. And one of the interesting things we need to, and I'm sorry to cut you off, Mr. Chair, look at is, look back to 2006, before Wareham Crossing came in, and out of our tax levy, the residential portion was roughly 89%. So out of our taxes that we received, about 89% of it came from the residential. Today, about 82% comes from the residential, so there's been a large shift. Now-
About 7% shift from
Right.
It should pick up with the.
Right, so the
stuff coming in.
commercials pick that up as well as personal property as well. So, you know, you don't see it as a taxpayer, but that relief has come from those projects. The other item as well, which was really disconcerting, is our overall values have gone down from about 3.7 billion, I believe, to about 3.1 billion.
We're talking about the, also, I believe the state just came out with that EQV rating of values for every town, and I believe Wareham went down about 100 or 200, I think it's about $100 million or something, the overall number.
Right, which,
I have to go back and look, because they had all the towns, some went up, but we went down. And that money's based for the Chapter 70 monies for the education, among other things.
it should help increase the Chapter 70 formula. Unfortunately, on the back end from the assessments, we're getting wiped out.
We can't win.
Yeah, I think right now from the retired teachers, the school choice sending, and the charter school sending, it's just under or over $3 million every year.
The board really has just got this, so I would say that if you want, in a week or two, we can go back, and if any questions, Mr. Sullivan will just send them in to him.
You did get it by the charter deadline, though.
Yes, we did, no question about it, and thank you. Everybody worked well on that. We have reached out to try and get some meetings together and on the budget, so we'll obviously, I believe the Finance Committee is going to move the date to February 19th for the all-day meetings.
Correct.
Because of the storm, we have to push it back a week. And we are going to have to meet, you know, somehow or another, sit down and hash this out, because the budget as it sits is just not, you can't, well, you can come in with an unbalanced budget, but the state won't allow you. We'll be back with another special town meeting to fix it. So there's a lot of work to do here.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, and it's an excuse if I'm pontificating here, but at some point we need the vision of where we're going, because we see the people are sending their kids out of town for education. We know that we have a substantially larger retired population, senior population than the rest of the community. Who are we attracting to the town? Who are we bringing in? How do we get them in here? And that's and I know that's on my end, but I think that's the main thing, because we've been scrambling so long, just picking at the scraps of the budget. It's we need to try and figure out where we go.
Yeah, I mean, the situation, I know everybody runs into it. You talk to people that have kids in the school system, and there's more and more people saying, I'm going to move my kid here, I'm going to move my child there. The school department, you know, I'm not criticizing them, but they need to have to really look into it to figure out, you know, what they do and how they do, because they're losing people. You know, they're losing their constituency.
And we can have a new house built, and it's tax revenue of about $3,000, and if they have 3 kids in the school system or sending them elsewhere, it's a cost of $30,000.
It doesn't work. There's no easy solution, but we'll need to sit and come up again. You know, I'm hoping that we'll do what we did the last couple of years, the 3 boards meet and, you know, work this out, because it has to be worked out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Titlebaum, you want to go ahead and read the actual dates here? I'm sorry. When you did the actual special town meeting, there's a whole bunch of dates should have been read into the record. Mr.
Right.
Whiteside, you were correct. You're welcome.
Okay, process for calling a special town meeting, April 27th, 2015 at 7:30 PM within the annual town meeting. So this is it's a separate meeting, but we're all in the same hall at the same time. Tuesday, February 3rd, 2015, Board of Selectmen should establish all dates for completion of a warrant for the special town meeting. Friday, February 20th, 2015, last day to post in at least one public place in each precinct, notice of intention of Board of Selectmen to call a special town meeting for April 27th, 2015. Bylaw Division 1, Article 1, Section 3. 10 days before the warrant closes. Thursday, March 5th, 2015, publication in a local newspaper of notice of intent to call a special town meeting, Wareham Home Rule Charter, Section 2-4C, 45 days or more before the date of town meeting. Thursday, March 12th, 2015, the last day to submit articles to be inserted in the warrant. Tuesday, March 17th, 2015, Board of Selectmen should officially close the warrant. Friday, March 20th, 2015, last day to post in each precinct and deliver a copy of warrant to the town moderator and to the chairman of each committee established by Section 2-5 of the Wareham Home Rule Charter. And that's pursuant to Section 2-4D of the Home Rule Charter within 3 days of closing of warrant. Thursday, April 2nd, 2015, last day to publish entire warrant in a local newspaper, Wareham Home Rule Charter, Section 2-4D, not less than 14 days before town meeting. Monday, April 27th, 2015, commencement of special annual town meeting. And once again, that's at 7:30 p.m. It's the special town meeting within the annual town meeting, so it's not at a different time or place.
It's a pain in the ass. Gotta get it fixed. Sorry, thank you.
Can't be standing in the way of progress.
Okay, under other town business, I mentioned it earlier, due to the storm, et cetera, I'd like the board just to vote on record that we're gonna move the acceptance of, non-citizen petition articles to the 9th of February rather than the 2nd.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? 400, thank you. That will be the submission date for the articles. The submission date actually was the 2nd.
I didn't hear you say all in favor, that's why. Did you hear him?
No.
Oh, okay.
He didn't.
Okay.
Seemed like a good idea anyway, right?
Hey, half the time I miss it, so I didn't.
It's okay.
That's all right.
But old people.
Aye.
Aye.
Is it back? It's 400. Go ahead, Mr. Titlebaum. I don't think we have any bills.
Nope. Consent agenda, authorization to sign bills and documents, et cetera. We have none. We had executive session minutes on here.
The minutes are not here.
Where are the minutes?
We interviewed and did the appointments to the Veterans Council already, so that was taken care of. Next up, Town Administrator's report. I don't know if he wants to say any more than he already did.
I think he's had enough time.
Nah, he's always good for more.
Yeah, keep it short, please.
No, I am fine with it. We've gone over it.
Thank you.
Thank you for your brevity. Next up, liaison reports.
Mr. Titlebaum.
Just what I announced earlier, that the Beach and Tourism Committee is going to, in conjunction with the Marriott, is going to be putting on something for everybody to get involved with tourism,
Good. Mrs. Whiteside.
with free food.
Thank you. Obviously, the establishment or reestablishment of the Veterans Council was something that I've been working on. We have also invited the Council on Aging and the Friends of the Elderly to a meeting in a couple of weeks, I think.
I don't remember if it's next week or the week after.
I think it's the week after.
We have that memo of understanding we need to
Right.
clarify with the town, COA, and the Friends of the Elderly.
Right, and unfortunately, although there's an eager group on the Council on Aging, they have not been able to establish a meeting with the Friends of the Elderly. I've attended.
Just as I've spoke with a couple members of the Council on Aging, I think Peter Dunlop in particular, a couple of days ago, and I guess there has finally been some
Oh, good.
conversations, which is great.
Good.
Because up to then, there was none.
Excellent. Had several meetings in the past month on the library and possible partners for the library, possible additional funding for the library, possible additional everything for the library. And we keep coming back to square one, but we are trying desperately hard to reinvigorate the library and bring it back to be one of the jewels in the crown.
Mr. Holmes.
No, I think that I'm pretty much all set. I've spoke to Mr. Sullivan about lending some assistance to the web master.
I have a
I've been doing
question.
some research on websites,
But
and
Okay.
so I'll be working with him and Matt
Would the board like to appoint Mr.
Yes,
Holmes as the
Just
board's
did.
representative
just did.
to work?
So moved.
Second.
See that? Volunteer.
Is Steve still here?
He's still here.
Yeah, see?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And, we just, listen, I just think that, I never really paid attention to our website, I'll be honest with you. And when I did, I just think that compared to some other towns, we know we're better than them. And so my goal is to be the best,
Not a problem.
And I think I can help them out a little bit and get that done. And we have a lot of young people in our area in vocational training who are involved with web building and things like that. So I think if we pull I like to call them the younger crowd together, Usually, well, they're younger than me, and usually they end up with some real fantastic stuff, you
Yes,
know,
they
so
do.
I think it'd be pretty cool to see how that
Excellent.
turns out.
You, Mr. Sullivan, have some fun.
Yeah,
Mr. Underhill.
we're gonna have a lot of fun.
Thank you. I have nothing, unfortunately, with the weather. All the committees basically have not met in the last week and a half, so we're behind the eight ball on that stuff. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Titlebaum, second by Mrs. Whiteside. All in favor?
Aye.
400. Thank you very much.
Good night, Wareham.
Shoot.
Good night, Wareham.
You have your Cape Cod 5 thing here.